What's up, YouTubers? So, if you remember, and most of you probably don't, and I don't blame you because I don't read them anyways, I had made a post a while ago on a really good deal, which was this ESAB Rogue 200 for like $1,000 plus tax or whatever. And not a whole lot of people saw it, and that's all right. Like I said, I don't generally read posts anyways, but I thought I would share that with you because it, well, was a really good deal. Well, guess what? I actually bought one of those, and it's been sitting in the shop for a couple weeks unopened because I've been so busy with everything else that I didn't get around to opening it up and testing it out. So today, that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to unbox this, look at what it comes, and see if it's worth $1,000. If you want one of these, and I'm not sponsored by ESAB, I believe you can still get them for around $1,000, and for you home hobbyists, or if you want to do portable welding for like a side gig, I don't think you're going to find a better deal on something like this. I mean, a used Miller 161 MaxStar, which is my personal favorite welder of all time, those sell for like double what this does to have high frequency DC TIG. So quite a big difference, in double the price for used versus this has a 3-year warranty. Anyways, let's unbox this and see what you get for your money. So this package over here, which we will open, I had to buy the foot pedal for this separate. So that's what this is. Don't buy it through ESAB. They'll charge you a stupid amount of money. ESAB does not make the foot pedal for any of their welders. It actually comes from a company, SCC Controls, and I just buy them off of Amazon. That's kind of interesting. The tag that should have been here was slipped into here. Not really sure what the deal with that is. Standard manual, we don't need that. Now this unit should be the same size as the 180 Rogue and the 130, although it is obviously higher output. Yeah, so this is the same size as the 130 and the 180. Pretty small. I mean, you can see, I'll give you a measurement here. So, I don't know if I could open this. It's about 10 inches, 10 1/4 high, 6 wide roughly, lengthwise about 14 3/4, 15 inches, depending on if you count this part that sticks out. So very compact. Weight-wise, I don't know, it feels like maybe about 18, 19 pounds, so fairly light as well. Now, because this machine has high-frequency TIG, and the 130 and 180 don't, it's a little bit different on the TIG setup, so I believe you can still do lift arc with this, but it has high-frequency start. So this has a built-in gas solenoid, therefore it has a gas hookup. This seems to be some kind of proprietary fitting, likely only for the TIG torch this comes with, so that's kind of interesting. The foot pedal connector it uses is a standard one that the Rebel uses. So even though this is a Rogue, it's the same pedal, I believe, or at least that's what I ordered. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake. Now the standard 130 and 180 machines do not have a built-in gas solenoid, so when you TIG weld you have to use a gas valve on your torch. And I used to own a 180. I loved the machine. I sold it because I really wasn't doing much portable work and didn't need it. Well, here I am a couple years later buying the bigger one because I will be doing some more portable work, and it's simply too much of a pain to lug around my Dynasty or even my firepower welder because, you know, they're double the size of this and probably double the weight. One thing I've always liked about ESAB, and if you know me, I like ESAB, Lincoln, Miller, I mean, some of Everlast welders. I just like welders, okay? But one thing ESAB I think does better than virtually anyone is they actually like label their stuff really well. Now, I've been TIG welding and stick welding a long time, but for you guys that aren't, they actually give like parameters here, and same thing over here, like stainless steel, nickel alloy for TIG. Kind of interesting that they give you some information. Now, the standard, the 180 and the 130 actually has stick rods on here and the amperages that they run at. So I find that kind of interesting that this one only has TIG on it. I'm almost thinking, let me look here. No, they're different, huh? Yeah, so just all TIG information. The standard one has like 70, 18, 60, 13. I don't know why they would have done 2 with TIG, but whatever, hey, is what it is. There is a strap that goes on it that's in here. Another thing that's cool with these, and I've always liked that, they come with a really long power cable. I don't know how long this is, probably 9 feet, 8 feet, 10 foot, somewhere in there. Really handy because it's not like the outlet's always going to be right by you. So I always like that, something ESAB's done. So let's look at what you get. This box weighs almost, I would say, as much as that does. There's a strap. Comes with tungsten, some collets. I'll never use those. Maybe I'll use the tungsten. Whoa. Oh, I see. Look at that. It's an adapter to use a standard TIG torch on that. That's interesting. So it's like a flare adapter. Comes with gas hose. This is an adapter to run it on 110, 120. Electrode holder, pretty much standard ESAB. This isn't a bad one, not my favorite. Ground clamp. So this is one of the interesting things, one of the reasons I bought it. Now this is kind of, I mean, at least it has a flex connector there. That's kind of nice. And a sheath to protect it. So this has a torch switch, and it also has a rotary amp dial. So if you're not using the foot pedal, you can actually adjust the amperage using this, which again for portable welding jobs could be pretty invaluable where you don't have room to use a foot pedal. I actually don't have, like on my Dynasty, I don't have a fingertip control at all, and there's times that that could come in handy. The alternative to that is just to set your amperage and then use a lift arc. That's also would work. This is, I believe, yeah it is a flex head as well. Highly recommend flex head torches. It just makes it a lot easier to make decent welds. This seems pretty decent quality, which, I mean, I would expect that coming from ESAB. Huh. Interesting. So this uses the fitting that goes directly on there, but they included this for the sole purpose of running other TIG torches. So I thought that you need to use this for this, but no, you don't. So if you want to use other TIG torches, it has an adapter. So that was thinking on ESAB's part. And then of course it comes with their standard regulator. This is the same regulator that came with my firepower welder. I prefer a flow meter over a pressure regulator, but in my experience, these actually work pretty good. Yeah, same one. Not bad. Well, let's get this all hooked up and see what happens. So as a comparison here, you can see here's my firepower welder, there's the Dynasty. This and the Dynasty are somewhat similar in width and height, but length, this is way longer. You can see by how far it sticks over, and this isn't even shoved all the way back, and this is over. But you compare it to the size of this guy, I mean, this thing is literally a shoebox and would easily fit inside of here with room to spare. And I'm a huge fan of little welders like this. The duty cycle on this is actually surprisingly good. I'll put it up here now. You can definitely run some pretty decent sized rods and for a fair amount of time and not trip on duty cycle. Now obviously it depends on how hot it is outside. If you're in Arizona and it's 120 degrees, you're not going to get the duty cycle they claim out of any welder for that matter. But these guys, you know, the 180 amp and this one a 200 amp, for you home hobbyist types, you really couldn't ask for a better welder because, you know, don't get me wrong, I learned to weld on a Lincoln Tombstone, and you know what, after a certain point, unless it's bolted to a wall just for repairs right there, they just suck hauling around, you know, your shop, your garage, whatever. These things are so portable and so easy to take around that it really opens up a whole new world for what you can weld. Not to mention, this guy has what's called power factor correction, which is essentially capacitors on the input that allows you to, how do I put it, weld on 120 volt with reduced amperage draw. And why that's important is it allows you to output more power on normal wall outlet than you would normally be able to get out of an average welder. Now it's not a miracle worker, like a 20 amp circuit only has so much power there, but it allows you to get 5-10 more amps reliably out of a 20 amp 120 circuit. And for you guys that are working on, you know, you don't got a 240 outlet, or if you want to run a lot of extension cord, which basically contributes to voltage loss on the input side, it will help you out there. So home hobbyists with less than ideal power, this will work really well for you. Not to mention on the TIG side, you can get way more amperage. So I think this goes up to 130 amps maybe on TIG. I'll put up the actual number. Very handy on 120 because you can actually weld something like you could weld 1/4 inch thick steel with TIG at those rough kind of amperages. So anyways, I gotta go fire my generator up because I don't have 240 volt in here, and we will power it up and see what we got. Let's see if it turns on. What do you know? So it's in high frequency mode. This is lift arc. This is stick mode. Now I'd imagine you press and hold this maybe. No, that doesn't do anything. Press and hold this, there we go. You can turn on or off 60-10 mode, which I think that's just a different setting. Like, let's see here, let me set that at 100. Off. Hot start. Let's let it cycle. Yeah, maybe. Let's see. 100 amp. 35 amp. I don't know why it displays that. This is a set point. Huh. Yeah, so that's just to run 60-10 or not. Probably changes the arc force because I do not see... Oh, there's arc force selection. Interesting. Well, it appears to work. So let's go back to high frequency TIG, put it at 120 amps, and let's weld. So I figured out why the machine had a display of like 30 amps. I wasn't thinking on this TIG torch, this rotary dial stays put, and that adjusts your amperage up to the maximum. So what it was is, because this was still hooked up even in stick mode, it was manipulating the amperage in stick mode, which is kind of interesting that they would let you do that. But so I have the machine set for 120 amps, and now, like right now, it's at 90. If I back it off, it's at 40, so it just stays put. This is the contactor button, so without a foot pedal, you basically press this, and as long as you hold it, the arc is lit. When you let go, the arc extinguishes. Now you can set it to where when you press it, it will maintain the arc, and when you press it again, it will extinguish. That would probably be my preferred method over holding it, because it's going to affect your dexterity of your hand. So let's make a weld here. Turn up the amperage a little bit would help. There we go. I'm not sure how much post flow it has, if any. I mean, the tungsten didn't turn color, so there must have been some post flow, but it seemed like it stopped pretty quick there. And maybe that's adjustable, I'm not sure. Yeah, the end of it has a little bit of porosity. I think if the post flow is adjustable, I need to do something about that, because it reacted. But the rest of the weld, very clean. I mean, it's TIG. That's what you're gonna get. So yeah, the TIG functioning works pretty good. One thing I'm curious about is if I can change the amperage while welding. It'd be pretty difficult to do that, but I just wanna see if that will work. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so in 4T mode, I believe it'd be 4T, you could technically start the arc and then use the finger dial and lower and raise the amperage without a foot pedal, so it's not fixed at whatever you started at. So that's pretty cool. I kind of thought it would, and well, it does. All right, well, let's do a stick weld with some 7018 and a 6010 and just see what it does, and then go to conclusion. All right, I'm set up. I got what I had laying around, a 532 7018. On this thin a plate, it's like quarter. I'm gonna run 160 amps, run a pass, see how it does, and then we'll try some 6010. Generator definitely jumped on that one. Pretty good looking pass, no real issues there. Looks good. I'm going to switch it to the cellulose mode and drop it down to 90 amps and see what we can do with this 6010. Burning paper. Love that smell. Well, it looks rough, but that's just because it hasn't been wire wheeled. Well, I'll clean it up and then let's go to conclusion. So a couple things to mention on this. I looked into all the settings, and yeah, you can adjust the post flow and pre-flow, so that's all good. That's awesome. Another thing I want to mention, and a lot of people don't, I don't know, think of this, is that you notice how this thing is powered on and it's quiet. I mean, you're going to hear the generator in the background, but it's quiet, right? This has fan on demand. If you have a quiet shop, or at least, you know, you weld around people, or you just hate loud fans, this is really nice. And most higher end welders tend to have fan on demand. It's great because it's quiet and it only runs as needed, typically when welding and a little bit after. But not only that, it doesn't pull all that grinding dust. Like say you're doing a little bit of welding and then you grind a bunch and then you weld. The whole time that fan's running, that grinder dust and all the crap around your workplace gets sucked in, blown through there. Well, this only runs kind of when you're welding, so that's probably 90% of the crap that's would be in there will never find its way in there. So I think the longevity of a product that has that will probably be a little bit longer. And don't get me wrong, if it's really hot out, it's going to run all the time, even when you're not welding. So, because it probably has like a temperature probe. Yep. Speak of the devil, kicked on right here. It's probably 90 some degrees in here, so doesn't surprise me, and it will shut itself back off. So let's go back over to the weld table. Well, you can see weld's pretty decent, 1/8 inch, 6010, 532, 7018, 1/4 inch plate, and then of course a little TIG weld up here. The little porosity at the end, the gas post flow was set too low, so that easily fixed. I wanted to show you a couple things here. So this big torch and this sheath is great for heavy duty use, and to be honest, in field use where this is going to get all sorts of stuff like running on the edge of this table, or you know, just abrasions. This will last forever. This is my preferred torch style. This, see how flexible this is? It puts no force on your wrist or trying to bend this out of your hand. You can position it in any direction. This is also a flex head as well. So much easier to use. This, for what it is, works good. It does have a swivel there, but when you watch this, like, it feels like I have 5 pounds of weight back here because of how heavy this cord is. I mean, I wish you were here to feel it, but like, I'm not joking. There's 5 pounds of weight on this. So trying to weld precision welds, if you're in a flat position, no problem. But if you're kind of around a roll cage or something, this is going to be just too big and cumbersome. Again, for flat bench work, great. For everything else, using one of these is a lifesaver in comparison. Granted, this one probably won't take near the amperage that this will. And the cool thing is, because they gave you an adapter, you can just buy one of these and throw it on and it works. So what are my thoughts on this machine so far? Well, you know, I'm not doing a review of this because I haven't used it for a few weeks, a bunch of jobs. You will see this in upcoming jobs, and I'll share my opinion down the road on what I think on it. But what I find is interesting is I did use this foot pedal here, and I'll talk more about that in a second. And the TIG arc is very smooth, so like it goes up and down in amperage with the foot pedal very nicely. I find that interesting because I owned a ESAB Rebel 205 AC/DC, and that machine would like step down in amperage or up in like audible clicks, like it was doing 2 amps at a time rather than a smooth linear curve. This machine does not do what that 205 Rebel did. And that kind of really annoyed me that that machine did it. It was serviceable. I mean, it TIG welded fine, but it was the only machine I ever used that had a DC and AC TIG arc that wasn't smooth. I'm not sure why. I thought it was mine, but then I watched videos of other people welding with it, and it did the same thing. You could hear the clicks. It would go click, 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 click. You could hear it, and if you can hear it, it's definitely doing it to the arc. So this doesn't have that, which is great. Now, the foot pedal, this doesn't say ESAB on it. However, you see, well, SCC Control. ESAB and Lincoln buy their pedals from SCC Control. Like this is what's known as the Lincoln style. I actually prefer the Lincoln style pedal versus the Miller style. Okay, now, and I'll show you why. Look how tall this Miller pedal is. I mean, that's ridiculous. So you have to put your heel here, and next thing you know, if you're sitting low to the ground, your knee's up in your chin. This, you can set your foot here and do this. You cannot do that with this. So I'm a bigger fan of the Lincoln style, and this I just bought off of Amazon, and it does work. So it's the same one as the Rebel series, so that's awesome. But honestly, I'm not a fan of the Miller, so get yourself this one if you want to TIG weld with this and not use that. And this will work with pretty much any TIG torch because it throttles the machine directly. You eliminate the wheel. But yeah, anyways, with that said, so far I like the machine. It's what I expected. Build quality is good. You know, what you're paying, I mean, I don't think there's a better deal for the $1,000 if you hopefully can get one that's out there for a portable TIG stick machine. I mean, you saw how well it ran 6010 and 7018 and TIGged. It's a great portable machine and great for you home hobbyists. So again, not a sponsored video by any means, but you will be seeing this welder quite a bit coming up in the future, and it'll make more sense when I get into the videos regarding that. Anyways, thanks for sticking around. Until next time.